All right, you're good to go, Adam.
Excellent. Thank you, Cody. All right, we're going to go ahead and start. We have a packed agenda this evening, so we'll get right into it. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 25th, 2021 meeting of the CB6 Land Use and Waterfront Committee. My name is Adam Hartke, and I'm chair of the committee. This meeting is called to order at 6:31. Tonight, we are joined by Assistant District Manager Cody Osterman. Members of the public, you can raise any questions or comments that you have through the Q&A feature of Zoom. If there is time following the committee discussion, we will field questions from the public. All right. I believe Letty is taking minutes this evening. Is that correct? Maybe. Cody or Letty or?
Yes, I believe that's right.
Okay, sorry, thanks. All right.
Yes, I'm in the middle of writing something, but yes, I'm here.
In the middle of writing the minutes. I apologize.
Well, I was just starting to put the attendance, looking at the participants and things. So yes, bye-bye. I'll go back to what I'm doing.
Excellent. Apologies for the interruption. Thanks for the confirmation. Letty's volunteered to take the minutes. Earlier this month, you should have received an email from the board office and the link to the doodle poll. If you have not completed the doodle poll, please do so. It's important that we have attendance takers for each meeting. All right. So with that said, Cody, can you please begin the roll call?
Sure. All right, members, I will call your name. Please unmute yourselves. When your name is called, please say present, and I'll announce if there's quorum. Adam Hartke.
Present.
Sandy McKee. Has Sandy joined? Okay. Jim Collins. Jim is waving and having some audio issues. All right. Kavitha Matthew.
Present.
Wells Magali.
Present.
Jean Santoro.
Here.
Larry Shire. Larry. Ann Seligman. Oh, Ann alerted us that she wouldn't be able to join today. Lou Sapersky. Sandra Sherrod.
Present.
Letty Simon.
Present.
Kathy Thompson.
Present.
And I see that Larry's joined, so that brings you to 10 members present and a quorum, Adam.
Wonderful. Thank you, Cody.
I'm here, Cody. I'm not sure why I'm not on the list. Molly.
I had you marked. Sorry, I just didn't read your name.
Okay.
I skipped right past you. Sorry.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Take attendance. Okay. We now need. All right. So have you placed the agenda on the screen? There we go. All right. So before you is the agenda for tonight's evening. This was distributed ahead of time by the board and appears on the screen before you. If there's no objection, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Okay. So you have no objections. The agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. Okay. The minutes from the November 23rd meeting were distributed ahead of time by the board office. If there is no objection, we will adopt the minutes as drafted. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the minutes, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Okay. So the minutes are adopted. So before we get into our presentations for this evening, a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. Committee members, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. If you click the participants icon, the participants panel should appear before you, and you should find the raise hand function. If you're still having difficulty, please flag Cody and he'll help you out. The chat function should not be used. We've been over this for going on a year now. When a committee member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so that you may speak. We are required by executive order to create a verbatim transcript of the meeting, so please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane the discussion. Thank you, Letty, for taking minutes once again. All right, with that said, we will dive right into it. All right, so the first item on tonight's agenda is an update from the Department of Design and Construction on the East Side Coastal Resiliency Project, ESCR. All right, ESCR team, I see that you're all assembled, so the floor is yours. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Adam. Can you hear me okay? That's the most important. Great. All right, let me just share my screen. Okay. Adam, you can see that? Looks okay?
It does. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, great. All right, so hi, everyone. I think the last time we met, it was before the new year. So I just wanted to wish everyone a happy new year. Once again, my name is Desiree Gazzo from HNT Bulero team. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Eastside Coastal Resiliency Project. We're here to give you a project update. Just to let everyone know, we will also be speaking at Monday night's CB6 Transportation Committee meeting. So we do have a few updates here in regards to the Greenway, etc. But we will also be speaking Monday night as well, just to let everyone know. Okay. So our presentation tonight, we'll go through a few different sections, the pre-construction and construction phase updates, construction mitigation, environmental monitoring, and then kind of a what we've heard session, which we'll breeze through pretty quickly. Construction overview slide, which we always have up every month. So for the overview of contracts, for project area 1, I'm going to have DDC kick off this slide here. Ophelia, I think you're on.
Yes, thanks, Faye. Thanks, Desiree. Hi, everyone. Ophelia Rivas, DDC, as many of you know. So for our PA1 package, I'm pretty sure many of you have heard as well, we're extending the bid for PA1 because of the complexity of the bid process, and we received an unexpected amount of questions and input from the construction industry during the bidding process. As many of you know, this is the first of its kind, this project. So it's very difficult, and we had many questions. So we took this as an opportunity to fine tune this bid. And we also wanted to go back and do right by the contractors, asking the questions, giving them the right information, and actually improve the package of the bid, thanks to the industry's input. So now we expect the site work in East River Park to start at the end of spring 2021. The revised timeline allows us to keep the park open through the spring. The good news is the timeline we expect will only be marginally impacted, adding only 60 days to our previous procurement line, which is a few months to the overall procurement. Obviously, we will need to revisit the final schedule after we award the construction contract, but we hope to learn from what we're learning from now with constructing PA2. We want to put any new time-saving based innovations into PA1. So whatever we learn from PA2 in terms of like equipment or scheduling to shorten it, we will use that for PA1. Currently, PA1 is listed on our website with the bid opening date of February 8th. This open competitive bid guarantees the widest response from the construction industry and best available price. So by giving it extra time and extending it, we're allowing more contractors to bid, more experience, more talent. So we just wanted to be good stewards of this project. Thanks, Desiree.
Great, thanks, Ophelia. So for project area 2, as everyone is aware, we received notice to proceed on November 16th, 2020. We're in the mobilization and site prep phase. And then parallel conveyance, we have the bid scheduled to open early 2021. So anticipated activities for PA2. So completed.
Desiree,
Yep.
I'm sorry, it's Q. Just going back to the previous slide, I wanted to add something. Hi, everybody, it's Q from DDC, Q Amiri. Just one additional note, we have some good news also that wanted to share, that the HUD deadline has been extended by a year. This was part of the stimulus package that passed not too long ago, and it impacts. It's good news for our project and a number of other projects in the region. So we wanted to let you guys know that we have an extended 12 months for our federal spending deadline. However, because up to this point we already planned our project spending and budget to meet the September 2022 deadline for the federal deadlines, we're already in good shape, and we planned our construction around meeting the original deadline. So this just gives us an additional cushion that we may not need. But I wanted to just add that to this slide here. Thanks, Desiree.
Of course, no, thank you for adding that, Q. So to go on to the PA2 anticipated activities, again, as everyone I'm sure can see, the Astrolevy construction fencing is up. We have our project signage up. The air and noise monitoring equipment is installed. That was installed as of a couple of weeks ago. I know we just got a recent inquiry about that. It is installed. The Astrolevy site amenity and tree removals are completed, and the rodent and bait station at various locations. In progress is the environmental and construction plans. The Solar One construction fencing in this area is going to change a little bit throughout the construction based on how the work is being planned in that area. So you'll see that in the in progress column probably for the next month or so. The Greenway rerouting signage, we'll talk about the Greenway in the next couple of slides. The contractor continues to move forward with test pits and other demolition activities. The engineer's field office are in progress. And then, as many of you that have received the bulletin last week, you will know that tonight we'll start the night work on the FDR West Service Road, and we have a little diagram showing you where that work is. And now that's for test pits and water main and sewer work that needs to be performed. We'll also be excavating the sidewalk and the pedestrian walkway on the north side of East 23rd Street and the median at the intersection there. And that's a little bit further in the upcoming weeks. The sewer work on the FDR East Service Road, and then the utility relocation in miscellaneous areas. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit more. So here's the construction map for Astrolevy. As everyone again is aware, Astrolevy Playground closed back in November. The track and the handball courts do still remain open. We have access there. For those of you who are using them, you will know that there is access there. The orange areas of this map, map the construction areas. So over here is where the upcoming night work will be. That'll be from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. We were able to work with DOT to get a bit of a time extension, and then a bit of construction work, night work over here as well. Or construction work over here, my apologies. The night work is over here. Then the night work detour associated with this work is shown here. So folks coming southbound on the FDR Service Road will have to kind of take East 25th Street to 2nd Avenue if they're continuing here, or they could, make a left here on East 23rd Street and then continue down. The construction work as shown on the previous slide will be kind of right in this area here, adjacent to Astrolevy Playground and the Recreation Center there. So folks will have to skirt around that. Again, if there are other preferred routes, that they would prefer to take, that's fine. This is a suggested route. And as far as construction impacts are concerned, as mentioned, there will be traffic closures and some detours. All work will be performed within the allowed noise level set by New York City. We'll get into the noise monitoring in the slides towards the end of the presentation. We'll talk about the greenway and bike lane detours. All transportation services will be maintained, DSNY collections, access to buildings and schools. Really, the impact will mostly be the detour and then the work associated with the night work. But we have been coordinating with all city and state agencies, emergency, etc., for the road closures. So the pedestrian and bicycle access, there are several detours that will be in effect. This one is the shared zone that is the soonest to be upcoming. Once the contractor gets permission to work in the greenway area, they will have to close down that little portion of the greenway area just adjacent to Solar One. And then right here, along the waterfront here, this area will become a shared zone. So bicycles and pedestrians will be able to use this area together while this work is being done. And that should last approximately 2 weeks or so. This has been coordinated with DOT, and you'll see some of the signs that pedestrians and bicyclists should follow in the next couple of slides. So after this detour, the next detour will be when the greenway needs to be closed between East 20th and East 23rd Street. So once the work area progresses and the area around Solar One becomes unsafe for bicyclists and pedestrians to access that area adjacent to Solar One, we will have to close down a larger part of the greenway, and that shared zone will not be able to be in use anymore. So after the shared zone detour, then we will progress into kind of a larger detour here, where folks will have to detour here at East 20th Street. There will be some access into Side Cove Park at this area, but if you're, going and don't want to hit a wall here, folks will have to go up to East 20th Street and then down First Avenue to go onward. There will be local access here along the Waterside area until about East 23rd Street, and then we're working with DOT on kind of some of the specifics for this plan. Again, all detours are subject to change. This one is close to being finalized, but we are still working out some of the finer bicyclist and pedestrian safety signage, etc., with DOT, who's also on the call with us tonight. And then, as many folks have been looking for, the Avenue C detour from 18th to 20th Street, that is still under ongoing conversations with the contractor and with DOT. So we do not have more information on that tonight, but we did want to bring forth these two detours here. So signage, these are the project signs that have been installed by Solar One and Astrolevy. And then on the right-hand side of this slide are some typical DOT signage. Again, at the top is for the shared use zones. And then at the bottom area here is for that second detour that we'll have in place. Again, we'll give at least 2 weeks notice for that detour to take place. Communications, we did bump up after some comments that we received, the kind of buttons on our website for online inquiries, etc. And then we have been sending out the community advisories and bulletins. This is the last community advisory that has the shared zone that was issued in the beginning of January. And then at least 2 weeks prior to that second detour between 20th and 23rd Street, we will send out an updated advisory. So construction mitigation and environmental monitoring. I'm going to go through these slides pretty quickly. If you have, if you want to come back and look at them, that's here for you. So the construction health and safety plan is something that is mainly benefiting the construction workers' site safety. It talks about the personal protective equipment, emergency response procedures, and it also incorporates the COVID rules and regulations. The noise and air quality monitoring plans, those are in compliance with the New York City Noise Control and Air Quality, National Ambient Air Quality Standards. It sets the monitoring locations, reporting thresholds, etc. for the monitoring. Within that, or within the air quality monitoring plan, is the dust control plan. And that's in compliance with New York City codes, COP construction dust rules, etc. There's also vibration control plan that the contractor needs to be in compliance or needs to submit for. And that really is within safe limits of nearby structures. And then for soils, the soil mitigation during construction will be implemented in accordance with the remedial action plan, which is improved by DEP. So for construction monitoring in general, there's really kind of a three-tiered approach in dealing with the air and the noise. The dust reduction strategies, and you'll see the noise reduction strategies on the next slide. That's really the first step the contractor takes to mitigate the impacts from construction. So we have here a list of typical kind of dust reduction strategies that the contractor takes, covering any loose materials, whether it's soil stockpiles on site, or whether it's through the materials that are being trucked, etc., making sure they're all tarped and making sure that the dust isn't, flying through the air. The use of electric machinery and low diesel vehicles. That's kind of the first step here. Then through the site inspectors and the environmental specialists that we have on site, they kind of watch and make sure that those dust reduction strategies are being implemented, as well as our construction staff as well from the PMCM side. So those are the first two tiers. And then on top of that, we have the monitoring, which everybody is aware of. So that has recently been installed, and the monitors move based on the location of the construction. Again, and they measure airborne dust and then meteorological data such as pressure, humidity, wind direction, etc. All of those are really important when measuring air. Again, similarly for the construction mitigation for the noise, the contractor has a set of noise reduction strategies. We have the inspectors and the environmental specialists, and then there is the monitoring as that three-tiered approach to construction mitigation. For soils and excavation, that's a little different. Typically, there is soil core sampling down to the depths of excavation, and that's basically to determine how the soil will be disposed, how it can be reused. And then there are on-site inspectors and environmental specialists, which is what I was speaking about earlier. So the contractor has environmental specialists that they bring on for the project, and the PMCM team has environmental inspectors as well. So there's another kind of two-tiered approach to confirming that, folks are knowing what is going on site. There is that oversight, and, again, it's part of that kind of three-tiered approach. So the material handling plan is something that the contractor needs to submit again prior to excavation, and the environmental specialists work to review and approve that, as well as our PMCM team. And I think we went over the rest of this slide. So obligations. Noise and air quality commitments were made for the during the FEIS and record of decision for ESPER. I know that everybody is aware of that. The monitoring plans we just went over. The independent environmental consultants, again, they'll be on board from the contractor and the PMCM, and they will perform soil and water sampling. Alerts for air quality and vibration are sent automatically. So if thresholds are exceeded, and again, this might be an exceedance of a threshold, this might be something that happens with the equipment. There's a variety of reasons that an alert may go off, but essentially an alert or a series of alerts would be sent to the contractor, the PMCM team, and the environmental specialists for them to kind of investigate why the alert was sent. So an investigation occurs, and if necessary, then work could stop if the investigation determines that that needs to happen. Otherwise, it might just be the tarp flew off of the stockpile and it just needs to be recovered and replaced. So as far as reporting was also a commitment made to the community through that commitment letter. DDC is required at a minimum to submit quarterly summary reports to the public, but we are working through what exactly that looks like. What we've heard for the compost location, I'm not sure if anyone from DSNY is on this call.
There is actually. I think Cody just let them on.
Okay.
It does, right? It's Andrew Hoyles here.
Hi, Andrew.
How are you all doing? Thanks, everyone. I'm one of the senior managers working with the folks at DSNY to work towards establishing the alternate site for the compost location in East River Park. It's really just a brief update. We're still working with City Hall and with the Ecology Center on finding an alternative location. We haven't yet secured a new site. We are conducting site visits with them. We are actively, working with our real estate division at the agency and with, other agencies, real estates, and what lots they have available. But we'll continue to do so. Just at this moment right now, we don't have an alternative location for them, but that's not going to stop us from, continuing the search that we're doing consistently. A really brief update, but that's where we're at this moment.
Great.
Great,
Thanks,
thank
Andrew.
you. Thanks, Andrew. And then just to touch on one or two other items, emergency access, we've received several questions in the past. So I just wanted to reiterate that coordination with our emergency access partners is ongoing from design throughout construction. And in the design, essentially, we have the initial conversations, it gets put into the design drawings. And then as we move forward to construction, those drawings may get edited as we have conversations. And then the FDNY, NYPD, they come out on site to kind of test and drive through the path of where the road closures are, where the additional barriers are. So again, that's something that we received a couple of inquiries for. So we just wanted to reiterate that coordination doesn't stop. It is ongoing through construction, and it is coordinated between our emergency partners, DOT, the contractor, and our partners at DDC.
Desiree, there's a question about actually access to the VA. Since we're talking about access, do you think that you could address that now? Will there be will access to the VA be impacted during the construction work, particularly those who use the bus?
During this current detour this upcoming detour, or just in general throughout kind of the life of the project?
I think the answer to both is I think they'll be fine, right?
Yeah, I mean, Ahmed is on, but any coordination that needs to be, that needs to happen during the project will happen with the hospital. They are in constant contact with. Hi, Ahmed.
Hello, hi, Desiree. How are you? This is Ahmed Ibrahim Mutlero, construction manager. Access will be maintained at all times. It will never be interrupted. Okay. We will always find a way to go around to give you access to the hospital.
That's what I thought. All right, thanks. I think that was an easy one. So thank you guys for the interruption.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Ahmed.
You're welcome.
And then construction staging and equipment, we just wanted to say that we did hear that there were some concerns about that, and we will have more information in later presentations. On-site bulletins, there was a concern. We are again working through what that might look like. Section 3 in MWBE, we do have Bowie Studios on board. Trang from Bowie Studios has been on one or two of our previous calls. And right before the end of the year, we had a meeting with DDC, Office of Diversity and Industry Relations. We actually had a follow-up call with them today as well. And we are planning a series of kind of smaller outreach events for 2021. So please just bear with us as we work to prepare that for this upcoming year. And we will have more information on that as we move forward. And then Pier 42, I think folks are aware that the Pier 42 work has started. A lot of the work within the lower part of the East River Park is in fact related to that EDC Pier 42 project. They do have a project website up. So in case anyone has information, has questions about that, you could reach out to EDC through the website there. So we just wanted to clarify that because we did receive quite a few inquiries about that as well. So I think that's where we end our presentation today. Again, we have been receiving inquiries through our inquiry tool. We have our CCL Nadine on board. I'm sure many of you have seen her out in the field. Please don't hesitate to, reach out to her. And, again, if there are any questions, we'll be happy to take them here or through the inquiry tool on the website.
Excellent. Thank you much, Desiree.
Mhm.
All right. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and jump into some questions. So the way this typically works is that we defer to the committee first, and then we will then move to those who have typed in questions in the Q&A feature. All right. Jim and then Larry.
I think Jim is on mute.
Try it now, Jim. All right. Jim, we're going to go ahead and we'll move to Larry, and then you'll be next. Larry. All right. I think you're good.
Thank you for the presentation. I was wondering whether you have included in your signage package information relating to the ferry terminal and maintaining the routing there, and that goes side by side with directing cyclists and pedestrians. And then additionally, we have brought up suggestions in regard to monitoring the area, and part of this could be done through video cameras. And Candace Thompson, a park manager at Stuyvesant Cove Park, brought up a question that's related to that as to maintaining the routing through Stuyvesant Cove Park if people do not wish to go over to First and Second Avenue, and she's concerned about bicycle and pedestrian collisions within her jurisdiction, and I am too. Video surveillance could allow for observation of whether these methods that you've devised are working, and would provide support for alternative routings, and the ability to see whether it works and whether you have to adjust that as well. And then finally, our committee and the Transportation Committee have long been recommending a routing under the FDR Drive viaduct for the detour, and allowing enough area adjacent to the construction laydown, or reserving that, so that this could be done from 18th Street all the way up through 23rd Street, allowing folks to get up to Waterside and beyond on the Greenway. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Larry. So a couple of questions, and DOT is also on the line, so if they want to jump in, they certainly can as well. The routing under the FDR Drive, that is under coordination between HNTB Lero, DDC, the contractor, and DOT. So we're having ongoing conversations about that route. And as we get more information on that, we will bring it to this committee and to the CD6 transportation committee. And I know there is a resolution letter for the CD6 transportation committee as well. We're very aware of that, and we are actively working to try and figure out how that would work and what parties are responsible for what in regards to that bikeway. So that is something that is ongoing and we are working on. The signage for the ferry, yes, we will have signage for the bicyclists and pedestrians in regards to the ferry terminal. I did not include that on my slide, and I should have, and I usually make a point of mentioning that, but I forgot, so thank you for pointing that out. We are working with DOT on what that signage looks like as well. So yes, we are very aware of that. Regarding the shared use path, the shared use zone, I will ask DOT if they want to jump in, because I know we've had several conversations about the safety of shared use zones. You know, they use them elsewhere in the city, elsewhere at construction sites. With the proper signage, they are safe, but I will let Meg, if you want to jump in, or anyone else from DOT, if you want to add anything to that.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Neg Lakou, Senior Project Manager, DOT for ESCR related issues. Like Desiree mentioned, the shared use path in this area, we've heard from the public that if there is this path, cyclists are going to use it. It's something that we could only typically control and give a direction and guidance with signage. Our number one concern is safety, as always when it comes to cycling and using the greenway. So with that being said, the shared use in this area is only for a very small portion. It was my understanding that when the 20th to 23rd reroute is happening, that the whole Esplanade was not accessible. If that is the case, then there would not be a shared use path for pedestrians and cyclists that will be used by the contractor. Desiree also mentioned next week we'll be coming to the Transportation Committee. We hope to have a little bit more detail on the connection from 23rd to 20th Street. I saw in one of the comments and questions saying that cyclists are probably going to use that road anyway, but it is not a current bike path. And our number one priority is to essentially guide and steer cyclists when it comes to detours to using the existing network. So you'll notice in this plan that there is an attempt to notify cyclists at the 37th Street portion with signage saying local access only, path closed ahead. So we hope to deter some of the cyclists from using that route to begin with. But like I said, hopefully we will have more information for the 23rd to 20th Street connection, definitely before this phase of construction goes up. And then we're having active conversations with DDC and the contractor to accommodate cyclists for 23rd to 20th. So by next Monday, we should have a little bit more information, hopefully.
Well, thank you for that. We're very confused right now. And as to the video surveillance, which has a number of purposes, which also include the protection of the laydown areas from pilfering, and the establishment of homeless camps in this area, as well as monitoring whether bicyclists and pedestrians are in fact safe in this area. Does anybody have any plans for the utilization of cameras?
Larry, I don't believe there are plans to utilize cameras for this project. I will say that our team and our CCL is on site every day, and they are actively monitoring kind of the homeless population. The contractor is responsible for having a secure lay down area. So, you know, that's their kind of, that they take that on. And as far as the bicycle, you know, videoing the bicycle area, again, we don't have plans for video, and I don't think if that was something that needed to be considered, then that would be, a DOT might have more to say on that. But it seems like we're setting up the site in a safe manner with proper signage, and that should be sufficient.
That sounds good. Thank you. Jim, it looks like your audio is working again. Is that?
Well, I switched over to my telephone audio
Wonderful.
as a workaround.
Excellent. Before you ask I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
So we have a couple people in the general attendees in the chat who have raised their hand. If you could please type your question into the Q&A, and then we'll call on you then. Tommy, it looks like you've already typed in there, so I think you're pretty good. But Gary, if you could do the same. And after Jim, I'm going to call on Jean, and then after that, I'm going to go to Susan Steinberg, and then I'm going to go to Janet Handel from Waterside. Sorry, Jim, go ahead.
No problem. I just wanted to mention, that site you were mentioning, the core samples. There's actually 2 points to this. That area was part of the old gas house district, and prior to that, it was, I believe, Peter Cooper's tannery. So there's probably a ton of junk under the when you do your borings, you're going to find all kinds of corruption and filth and what have you. But my concern is, would it be possible, given that that sort of thing may cause you to have delays, or you may actually be able to speed up certain projects in the interim, would it be possible to get something like a real-time Gantt chart for may be issued every week or every 2 weeks, so that the community can see exactly where things are in terms of the overall project?
As far as, so Jim, sorry, just to clarify, is this having to do with the monitoring or just the overall project in general, where we are progressing?
The overall project. In other words, you have a number of steps in your project that will be being done presumably in succession, or some of them will be done simultaneously. If you can put them up in a Gantt chart, the community can see it in real time and know, precisely whereabouts you are. For example, I'm concerned about the playground at Astrolevy, and that being done in a manner that allows the children who play t-ball to have it open during their season, as opposed to later on in the summer, or when they can't really utilize the facility. So if you had a Gantt chart that was open and accessible to everybody, both with respect to you also mentioned you had a lot of detours and things like that were coming in. If you had a Gantt chart, we could see, just clicking on and seeing, this is what's happening with respect to this particular item that affects me because I live in the north side of Stuyvesant Town, or somebody who lives, say, south of 20th Street in Stuyvesant Town proper can look at it and see this much has been done, and I can do what I need to do before this project starts, or I can delay what I need to do because they're not anticipating working on this until this week. As well as I do, any project that you start is going to encounter delays and problems and what have you. I think when you drill those core samples, you're going to find all kinds of nonsense, and it's not going to be a pretty sight. The dirt is I'm sure it's just loaded with pollutants. So I don't know how you're going to get rid of it.
Thanks, Jim. So I think we are looking, and we did have kind of I guess not an actual Gantt chart, but we did have on previous presentations kind of like a timeline of each of the projects that did have some milestones and kind of the different phases of the project. We will look to bring something similar to that back to the community, these presentations, and then potentially to the website as well. We're still very early in our conversations with the contractor as far as his schedule, so I think something maybe similar to what you're looking for is
Desiree, also
Yeah.
I would just
Yeah,
put it up on a,
definitely.
you know, do it real time and put it up on the internet and let people see exactly where it is, exactly where you guys are.
Yeah, there is a short-term schedule and there's a long-term schedule. The short-term schedule we share with the community weekly through the weekly bulletin, and the long-term schedule for the entire contract. We're currently working with the contractor to finalize it, to show the stages, how we're going to move forward phase by phase and what it will be impacted, like you asked, Jim. So when this is final, within a week or two, we definitely can share it with the community and give you an idea where everything will move along and what will be the impacts for every step along the way.
And update it in real time.
And it will be, of course,
not real time necessarily, but say every 2 weeks or, you know, whatever.
You know, things with construction change all the time. We understand that because there are surprises. We all admit this. As we move along, this will be changing a little bit, and as it changes, we will keep you informed, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll give you enough notice before things change that will make a difference of an impact.
Well, I'm talking about something, you know, people that aren't in the community board, that aren't actively involved in the neighborhood, but people that can go perhaps even to the community board 6 website and just click and see, here's where this stage is, show the dates along the top, you know, or whatever horizontal axis, and show the project or the element of the project along the vertical axis, and just lay it out like a regular Gantt chart. You know what I mean?
And
just show it, you know, update it real time.
Right. And I'll echo that, Jim. You know, anything that allows the maximum sort of transparency, but also too, that is really design friendly, user friendly, and somebody who's not in the construction field or a government wonk or something like that can really understand. Will go a long way in terms of the expectations that people have and what's coming further on down the pike.
Sure. I mean, that's what we call phasing plan. Phasing plan shows you year by year. This project is 4 years long. So every period of time, you know where we're working, from what limit to what limit, and what will be open and what will be closed. And if this changes again, we'll keep updating it and we'll keep notifying you.
Excellent. Great. Yeah. Well, you'll hear from us if we have any any critiques of it. You'll be sure of that. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim. Jean, you're next, and then we'll move on to Susan and Janet, and then Sandy is going to read through the questions.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. First of all, thank you all for coming. Desiree, good to see you again. Really appreciate that. And as chair of the Transportation Committee, I'm looking forward to seeing you next week with the enhanced plans for the detour. I wanted to echo some of what Larry and other people have said, and I see there are a lot of questions in the Q&A for you that would be questions I would ask. So I just wanted to confirm something that you said. You did say that you were looking at the area beneath the FDR Drive to include as part of the detour for bikes at least. Did you not?
Yes, for the upcoming Avenue C detour that DOT will be rolling out in the spring.
And that's would be stretched between 18th Street and where on the northern end?
We're trying to just figure out whether it's 18th to 20th. However, we do understand that there is the need for 18th to 23rd. So we are looking at both.
Okay, that's what I wanted to confirm. See you next week. Thank you.
See you next week, Jean.
Excellent. Sandy, did you want to read Susan's questions?
Certainly. I have to go back to those, sorry. Susan asked if you could clarify how long night work will last and confirm that only the first hours will be jackhammering, followed by 6 hours of vehicles beeping. And that's how long in terms of the schedule, not just hours in one night.
Or Ahmed, do you want to take this? I'm sure you could speak more eloquently about it.
Yes. Okay. So what we're doing now, we're going to be installing sewer and water main. That's going to start actually this week, as early as tonight. Tonight they're only going to bring some materials in, so there's no excavation tonight. They pushed it maybe tomorrow night or even Wednesday night. But regarding your question with the jackhammering, the good thing that we received the approval from DOT to start the work at 10 p.m. as opposed to midnight. So they're gonna actually have the closure all set and complete, ready to work by 10 p.m. They can start doing the jackhammering, removing the roadway, and do the noisiest part of construction between 10 and 12. So before midnight, the heavy part of noise should be over with. The rest of the night will be just pipe installation, dropping manhole. Of course, machines will be moving, of course, and there will be noise, but not as bad as jackhammering. This operation to install the sewer and the water main on the West Service Road between East 25th and East 23rd will take approximately a week to maybe a week and a half. So it's not going to really last forever, but that's the part of utilities. We will have another meeting when, like I said, we're working on the schedule with the contractor. We were supposed to finalize that schedule in about a week. So all the other remaining activities, heavier construction, will be, decided exactly when it's going to kick in. And once we have the schedule finalized, we'll come back to meet with the community again and give you the time frame on the heavier construction to install the wall, the floodgate, driving piles. Of course, with driving piles, we're trying to do all this during the day, nothing during the night. And there is a push from the community and also from DDC trying to get daytime hour work for all the activities, but this has been worked with DOT and it has not been finalized yet. So for the short term, for a week or 10 days, and this operation will be over.
Excellent. Susan, does that satisfy, is that a satisfactory answer?
Yeah, it is. No, since the rest of the activities have not been scheduled, because I was interested in going back to that slide where it listed all the construction activities near Astrolevy and Solar One, and finding out, keep going back. Maybe it was a little bit forward. You listed several activities. That's an upcoming. It was the upcoming. Yeah. So each of those under upcoming is going to be its own schedule, and it's going to involve late night work.
Yeah, the first bullet is the night work doing the test pits, water main.
I'm sorry, and then can you speak a little louder into the microphone, please?
Okay, do you hear me better now?
Yes, I think so. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. So the first bullet, which is the test pits, sewer, water main work, that is starting this week. It's going to only last for like a week and a half. So we'll go into probably the latest end of next week. So this is a short term. It's not going to last more than a week and a half. It's again, like Desiree said, they're going to start tonight, but not really doing excavation. They're going to start bringing some material in, and the actual excavation will start either tomorrow night or Wednesday night, and we'll definitely let you know. As far as the other activities, the rest of the activities are daytime. It's not nighttime. The other bullets are daytime work. The remaining of the nighttime will happen maybe in about 2 months from now, when we do the actual wall, the actual footing, and the actual floodgates. This work probably will happen at night, maybe during the day. There is a conversation going on now between DDC and DOT, and it hasn't been finalized yet. We're waiting for the outcome.
And the community will get its 2 weeks notification before the night work starts. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Before any nighttime work starts, you will get the 2 weeks. Definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. It's good to hear. Janet, I see that you have your hand raised. Do you just want to go ahead and just speak your question?
Yes, I actually have several questions.
Okay.
The first thing I wanted to do is that I strongly support Jim Collins' suggestion, Ray, a Gantt chart. And the reason is because it lets people know what to expect. People feel very out of control right now. And so when you can see, this is what the plan is, and we're going to do this piece then and this. I mean, you guys have this information. You have a schedule, but you haven't chosen to share it with us yet. And so it really would go a long way towards making people in the community feel more comfortable if they knew what to expect. So I don't know why you guys are so resistant to sharing a calendar. We have been asking for a calendar literally for months, and we have not gotten even one single thing with regard to a calendar. So, you know, everybody understands that things change in construction, and it's not written in stone, and it's never, the schedule is, quote, never final. So that would go a long way. The other thing, I mean, you mentioned something about a year by year, you know, task thing. I mean, that's not nearly granular enough. People need to know what to expect month by month and week by week. You know, this is what's happening. So that I really, really support that. I think that was really good of Jim to ask for that. I just want to, you know, state, you know, for the record, Waterside and Stuytown, we do not want overnight construction. We do not want people's sleep to be disrupted. We have suggested, we made our point with DOT, and one thing we suggested was just completely closing the roadway from 25th to 23rd for the, you know, for as long as it needs to be, and just get it over with. Because it would significantly reduce, as we understand at the time, the construction time, if you just did it. Because, you know, if you look at the research about traffic in Manhattan, it's dramatically down from pre-COVID levels. And so DOT, when they talk, they always say, well, pre-COVID levels, but we're not pre-COVID, we're in COVID. And Manhattan traffic numbers are down 50%. Per IRIX or INEX, I don't know, I can't remember exactly what it is. So what we would like to see is that, and if not that, then we would suggest closure of the roadway from 25th to 23rd from 10 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. rather than at night. Then that way you're not, you know, you're not creating trouble during rush hour, but, you know, when it's a lighter traffic, which it is during the daytime, you could get that work done. Okay, the next thing is, I'm not sure, Adam, if you are aware of this, or if the community board is aware of this. I only learned about this last Friday, that there is a commitment letter between the New York City and the agency heads and the city council members of the affected areas, so Chin, Powers, and Rivera. And it's about, you know, 5 or 7 page letter, and I'll send that to you after I get off this call. One of the things where they're talking about nighttime construction is, it mentions that there has to be 2 weeks notice, but it also states that there is to be a posted and monitored phone number for problems when there's overnight construction. So people in the community can go and you know, so there's something happening that shouldn't be, there's a phone number where they reach a person immediately. It's not 311. 311 does not enable real-time responses at 3 o'clock in the morning. So they need to really, you know, DDC and the contractor need to honor the commitment letter that was signed, and put that monitoring system in place, and publish you know, put a sign up with the phone number. Okay, next, with regard to noise, air quality, and vibration, I think it's great that the monitoring is in there and they're putting sensors up and so forth. What I would like to request is if there be transparency, and that these readings get posted to a public website real time. Quarterly reporting is just not sufficient. I mean, you know, so much can happen in a quarter. I also think that there should be a map that shows the location of the sensors, a public map, because again, you know, sound falls off exponentially. I think, I don't know exactly, but it falls off a lot. And so where the sensors are located can really, you know, wreak havoc with good measurement. So that needs to be transparent and public. And the other thing I wanted to say, when I looked at the slide about the alert system, the alert system only showed air quality and vibration alerts. It did not include noise alerts. I don't know if that just was an oversight or why noise was not on that alert system slide. Can somebody let me know?
Yes, Janet. Yeah, Janet, this is Ahmed. Okay, so noise gets monitored in the field at all the time. It does not. There's no alert system when it comes to noise, but you know, they all have the meters and they take readings every certain time, like 5 or 10 minutes. Make sure it does not exceed what's on the noise mitigation plan. It's the practice of noise reading. It's not to kick off an alert. It's to be monitored and be recorded in a log.
But why is noise treated differently than sound and vibration?
No, it's vibration and air quality. You mean?
Well, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. So this is how you know, this is the normal procedure.
I'm not asking you what's normal. I'm asking why. Why is this normal?
Because that's how it is presented on the plan, and that's how it's approved on the plans. These are the standards. We just follow the standards that as they are in the specs. We just follow the specs as they are, you know, New York City DEP, New York State, all the local government specs. That's what they call for, and you know, it could be changed in the future, but that's how they are now.
Okay. And what about having this stuff posted to a website real time?
Yeah, so, oh, go ahead, Amanda.
No, go ahead. You go.
Okay. Yeah, so we are having conversations about perhaps presenting more than quarterly, but it looks like real time is probably not going to happen at this point. We do take back these comments though, to the larger agency, etc. But you know, the way DDC handles things on this project and others is that, you know, the noise reports are on a monthly or quarterly basis. And again, we're working with the environmental specialists, etc., to see, you know, what that looks like.
But I just want to say from the perspective of people that are living with this day in, day out, hour in, hour out, quarterly is not fair. It is not responsive to the community.
Sure. And Janet, if there are any exceedances, they are publicly put forth to the community. So if there are any exceedances that are investigated as a, you know, exceedance as a health threat, etc., those are made public to the community. So you will be informed if there is something that you need
in
to be
other words, in other words, if there is an exceedance that is concerning, you will not wait 3 months before you know about it. You will definitely be informed about it right away if it causes any concern or any health issue or anything like this. We're not going to keep it secret for 3 months.
Move on.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. We're going to go ahead and move on to the questions there in the chat. Sandy's going to read through those, and we're going to spend a few minutes. We're going to spend a few minutes on those, and then we're going to move on to our next agenda item, which is the sign presentation for ESCR. All right, Sandy, whenever you're ready.
Our first question is from Gary Brandwine, and he notes that environmental controls and monitoring were drawn up before the COVID crisis. How have you included the change in preliminary landscape in your calculations? And he'd like you to address the zip codes around the work site.
I would say this.
Oh, in Manhattan, actually, Manhattan Community Board 6 will answer this question, and I believe Cody is going to type something into the chat as a response.
Great, thank you, Cody.
Thank you, Cody.
Sorry, I was just indicating that Ahmed was answering it live. Sorry, Ahmed, go ahead.
Never mind, Ahmed, thank you.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I would say this. First of all, I'm not the environmental specialist, so. But I'll tell you what I know about this. You know, when they design, first of all, the criteria hasn't changed after COVID, as far as I know. And the reason is when they design these systems, they design it for the most vulnerable, person who is sick or as a child or somebody who cannot take contamination, or so it's already been designed for the weakest, for the most vulnerable person. And my information on this project or any other project in the city, the spec or the criteria hasn't been changed after COVID with the air monitoring quality and plans. Again, I'm not the environmental specialist. I'm an engineer, but this is what I know about this question.
Excellent,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you. From Rich Mintz, I've noticed that there's DOT signage already on the southbound 2nd Avenue bike lane between 14th and Houston. Is the greenway already closed along that stretch? And actually, I believe there is signage all the way up to 42nd Street that alerts to a detour.
Sure. That was the original Greenway detour that was installed at the very, very beginning of the project. That was in the original design drawings. So the contractor really wanted to get that installed, you know, at the forefront of the project to anticipate any closures, and that way the signage would be up. Since then, the detours have changed in coordination with DOT to become more localized detours for the greenway and bikeway, so that way that larger route didn't have to open. So
and
some
these
of
signs
the
were covered, Desiree. These signs were covered, but some of them I've noticed that somebody removed the covers. So we will ask the contractor to go back and cover them again, because that's the detour that is not in the work now.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Anne Greenberg, how much of the materials that will be brought in by barge, and at what hours? They're concerned about the horns already from the party boats, and that the barges may also make noise.
Hasn't been determined yet. We still don't have an answer on this. We can come back as soon as we know we have a solid information. We'll bring it to the table.
Great, thank you. That question was from Anne Greenberg. Tommy Loeb has a question. The contractor hires the environmental specialists. That could be a conflict. The community would like to vet the environmental specialists, and again, mentioned that quarterly reports are not sufficient.
So I think, Tommy, we hear you on that, as we did in the CB3 meeting as well. So we did take that back as a concern. However, as it stands right now, the contractor has the environmental specialist, PMCM has the inspectors as well. So we do have this kind of very tiered approach to making sure that we are doing all that is necessary and more for the environmental monitoring. But again, thank you for bringing that up again, and we will again bring that back. And we do hear you on the more than quarterly as well.
Another question from Tommy. Do we have assurances that the CB6 part of the project, Astrolevy and Stuyvesant Cove, will be completed even though the CB3 section is not finalized? And he wants to make assurances that we don't have unfinished construction.
Sure. So Tommy, as of right now, you know, and DDC is on board with the schedule as well. The schedule is moving forward. The project is moving forward. We have the funds allocated for the project. There is nothing that is saying that it will be delayed. It's moving on forward and on schedule.
And Gary has a follow-up question asking if COVID changes will be monitored as they are recorded by the CDC info for New York City, and the zip codes monitored on the site.
Ahmed, I'll answer this, but the contractor is required to follow all COVID requirements put out by the city. So if it changes, the contractor is responsible. The contractor, the PMCM, we're all responsible to follow COVID guidelines as they change.
Mary Neal Hawk has a request. She says that John Marsh and I are here to propose a very small footprint, high value amenity, a boat hoist and equipment for 1 or 2 25-foot wooden rowing boats, AKA Whitehall gigs, of a style used on the East River at 96th Street.
Andy, Mary's actually going to be able to present this in new business.
All right, we'll hold off then. Thank you.
Okay, excellent, thanks. And again, if the ESCR team could stay and listen to Mary's presentation during new business, that'd be appreciated. Thank you.
That's it for questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sandy. And thank you very much to the ESCR team for responding to questions. And I'm hoping you incorporate the feedback that was presented this evening. Okay.
Thank you.
So the second portion of the ESCR presentation, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you. I'm Maggie Hopkins from AKRF. We're the design project managers for the project. Some of you may remember me from the last 6 years or so of presentations. And while most of the project has obviously transitioned into design, there is into construction. There's one component that's still in design, which we're here to talk to you about tonight. So I will share my screen. I think this will be a briefer discussion. So as some of you may remember, one of the Public Design Commission PDC's requirements for approval of this project was that moving forward, we incorporate an educational signage component into the project to help people understand this new type of infrastructure that is being built in the neighborhood and understand how all the different pieces of that infrastructure work together. So that's what we're here to present to you tonight. And we just want to gather your feedback on it. We anticipate getting this round of feedback from you. We met with CB3 a week and a half ago, incorporating that feedback, revisiting the design as we need to, and then we'll be back again before we go to PDC for the preliminary review of this. So I'm sure I don't need to tell you about where the ESCR project is. You're very familiar. And as I mentioned, the goal really is to introduce a educational signage component. And so this is not wayfinding signage. This is really just educational signage that's dedicated to this project and to understanding how resiliency infrastructure works. So this will very much work in coordination with the wayfinding signage and standard signage that DOT and the Parks Department already have and will have in the project area. And so you'll see that these signs are very responsive and similar to those standards. And we are very lucky to have truly world-class designers from a firm called Pentagram working with us on this. And I'll hand it over to Rory from Pentagram here in a second to talk about the design proposal that we have on the table. But in general, the way we've approached this is to have an overall sort of resiliency project introduction sign that would be repeated at several places along the project. And then there will be detailed component signs at specific locations to help someone understand the exact piece of infrastructure they're standing next to. So these would be dedicated floodgate signs or interceptor gate building signs, things like that, that really, in combination between these two signs, you sort of get the whole picture. So we will see what these look like. Rory?
Hi, everybody. My name is Rory Sims. I'm a senior designer with Pentagram. Thank you for the introduction, Maggie. So as Maggie just mentioned, there's two sign types: the overall resiliency introduction sign, which is the one you can see right now. We've added some close-ups of this sign, top and bottom, just so you can see a little more easily on your Zoom screens. The top portion of the sign consists of a diagram of the various resiliency components and how they work together along the coast. So we've got the flood gate, flood walls, interceptor gate and building, the buried flood walls, and the embayment there is included as well. The bottom portion of the sign gives an overall description of the Eastside Coastal Resiliency Project, the reason for it, and the purpose of having a resiliency project. And then also we have at the bottom the various agency logos from DOT, Parks Department, EDC, etc. So this sign is, you can see here for scale next to a person. They're quite small. It is 12 inches wide by 24 inches tall. The reason behind it being 12 inches wide is because these are mounted at a pedestrian level. They're meant for a more sort of intimate viewer experience. So they're not, like traditional DOT signs or road signs that need to be large and call out from a distance. This is providing information for people who want to know a little bit more about the various project components or about the project itself, and we'll go up and read it by choice. So for that reason, it's mounted at pedestrian height, and because it's mounted at pedestrian height, we're limited to a 12-inch width so that people aren't banging into it and there's no risk of injury. So these are mounted to standard DOT mounting poles. You can kind of see here in this rendering from a view from the back. This is a flat sign panel with rounded edges. Again, that's for safety, if anyone is to bump into it. And the flat panel is mounted to the standard DOT poles. So this will be mounted to existing structures where possible to minimize the amount of dedicated poles. We're going to try and use existing light poles where the opportunity poses itself. Yeah, so we are still kind of evaluating the text on these signs as well as the graphic and the color. We got some feedback from CB3 last week, and we're looking to get your feedback tonight and to put all that together and potentially make some more revisions to this design. The next sign type, this is a slide of overall specifications. As I mentioned, rounded corners, 12 by 24. The next,
we should add on when we talk about specifications, a lot of this is really based on the parks and DOT standards. As you all know from just living in an urban environment, signs don't last forever. And so we want to make sure that we're designing something that parks and DOT can reprint and replace as needed moving forward.
Yes, that is correct. And also I should mention that the overall aesthetic of the signage that we've arrived at this point is a result of it being heavily coordinated with the various city agencies, the Parks Department and DOT specifically. They have signage standards. They each have signage standards, and we're trying to create resiliency signs that fall within their standards so that they can easily produce them, replace them, and also so that they're not competing in any way visually with the Parks Department signage or DOT signage. For that reason, some of the design choices, such as the font, for example, were chosen. It's the same font that's being used on the Parks Department standard signage and the same size. So that informed our design. The component information signs, this is the second sign type. It's very much so in the same family, a slightly shorter sign, but the same width, again, 12 inches. These speak to the specific resiliency project components. For example, here we're looking at the flood wall. The top half of the sign has a simplified diagram to demonstrate the purpose of the flood wall. And the lower half has a description of that function. Again, this language is still under review. Then we get onto the buried flood wall signage. Similarly, a diagram for the top portion of the sign. these were kept intentionally simplistic so that they are not specific to a particular location, and that they can recur throughout the project at different locations and still be applicable. Now we have the floodgate signage. Again, the top portion has a diagram demonstrating the function of the floodgate when it is closed. One thing to note is that the floodgates will be primarily open, and this is to demonstrate for passers-by what the function of that gate actually is and what it would look like closed to a degree. This is slightly more complicated, the Interceptor Gate. So this
you don't have to you don't have to explain what the Interceptor Gate is. You can just go ahead and just kind of just start going through these if you'd like.
Sure. Well, this is the last one. So this is showing the bit below the ground.
Excellent. Thank you.
Same mounting height here as mentioned for the first sign type.
Great. And so I'll talk in very general terms just to give an example of sort of where we're looking to locate these and how many we're thinking. And then we will happily take your questions and comments. So this shows just in a really broad scale, you know, how many signs we're thinking for the project as a whole. So over the 2.5 miles, we're looking at between 2 and 3 dozen signs. It's, you know, important that we don't oversaturate. You want people to be able to understand this infrastructure wherever they most likely come in contact with it. But at the same time, we know that there are a lot of signs out there already for parks and DOT use. And so it's really a balance there. For the most part, we try to locate them the first place that someone would come in contact with some of these pieces of infrastructure. So, you know, coming down 20th Street where the Interceptor Gate building is, or 23rd Street where there are a lot of floodgates, you would have a floodgate sign, something like that. So a couple examples of what this would look like in practice. This is at 18th Street and Avenue C. And the off-ramp there, you know, we know that there are a lot of gates through this area, so this would be an important place where pedestrians would first maybe encounter a floodgate. There would be a gate sign there, probably mounted to some kind of existing infrastructure. Looking at 20th Street with the Interceptor Gate building, you know, this is one of the more important signs because people have no idea what that building is for. So somewhere near the building where people will be seeing it, explaining what the infrastructure that it houses does. Similarly at 23rd Street, this is a place with a lot of gates, so we would have a floodgate sign. We don't have any showing the parks locations because that will really heavily depend on where Parks wants to put their signs ultimately. The way that Parks does it is that they come in after the park is constructed and put up signs where it makes sense, and so then these would be coordinated with that. So we're happy to take any questions, comments.
Excellent. This is really good. It really fulfills the ethos of always read the plaque. So with that said, we're going to go to Wells and then Sandy.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. I love the diagrams. They're great. I'm a big pentagram fan. I have two questions. One, how will the signage address low vision accessibility for people who are virtually impaired, who might be pedestrians in this area? I think that's by far the most important question. And then the second question is more about standards. I wonder if there is any kind of double-sided standard for this type of signage for pedestrians, as that's a kind of multi-directional mode of circulation.
Those are great questions. I can say for accessibility, based on discussions with CB3, one thing we're exploring is use of some kind of QR code that can potentially link to other languages since we're limited in space. certainly doesn't address the low vision question, which is a great one, and we'll need to look into that.
Sandy?
You've already addressed the language question. I was going to ask if there were other languages available. Also, will there be Braille? Is that not typically part of signage now?
That's something we need to explore. It's a great question and one that we haven't yet addressed with the city team, but we'll look into that.
Okay, so but basically everything is in English so far.
As of now, yes.
And I guess if you do incorporate other languages, they get much bigger, the signs.
Right. To do it on the sign, they would have to be considerably larger, or you would have to have a lot more of them, which is part of the appeal of something like a QR code or other creative ways to address that, which we're exploring.
Actually, I can jump in here quickly. Sorry, it's Q and Mary with DDC. Like Maggie said, we're looking into QR codes that would be much easier to integrate into this panel because we're restricted with the size, as she explained. We have to comply with DOT and parks standard signage for maintenance purposes. But if we can put a QR code that will connect to our website, then the website has translation options and we can connect it to specific web pages, or there will be translated pages there. So we're trying to figure out how we can provide that option.
Of course, it assumes you know how to use a QR code, but
yeah, exactly. That's the tricky part. We're trying to figure out a creative way to resolve this because again, we're restricted with size here, and we can't enlarge and provide different languages, and we can't only stick to one language. It has to be multiple different languages. So you can imagine the array of signs that will go out there. But we're discussing right now. We have a call this week with our city partners to talk about this and see what we can do about it.
thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Wells and Sandy. So we have two questions. We have two questions in the chat, or well, actually a comment. So Ann Greenberg suggests that we mount a sign or two directly on the gatehouse. Candace Thompson asks, Stive Cove isn't part of parks, so are they expected to maintain or replace the signage?
That is the constant question with things that come to Stive Cove Park. We aren't expecting that parks would necessarily be responsible for signs in that area, but part of using these more standard signs is that they would be easy for any agency to reproduce and maintain, whether it's DOT, parks, or EDC. EDC has been involved throughout these reviews as well, less so because they just have a lot less area to cover and worry about. But yeah, we are and will continue to work with the city team to be precise about who's maintaining those signs.
Excellent, thank you. And then we have a comment from Tommy Loeb. Moving the 23rd Street sign south across the street to the small island will be safer and more visible.
That's a great comment, thank you.
All right, excellent, thank you. Okay, so with that concludes the ESCR portions of this evening. I'd like to thank all the members of the team. Thanks again for joining the committee and enlightening us with the updates that are going on right now. I'm hoping that you're able to go back and incorporate this feedback. There was definitely a lot from many members of the community here in CB6 and to our neighbors to the south in CB3. And so we look forward to seeing you again very soon to see the construction updates as they unfold, and also for you to incorporate some of this feedback, into the ongoing process. So thank you all for your time. Thank you. So with that said, so we're going to move into sort of new business. We had a person who came to us and proposed a sort of a unique idea, and actually her suggestion was within Stive Cove Park. And so there's a lot of people on here, who are directly, affiliated with that area. So I'd ask that you sort of stay on and listen to her sort of presentation. So since this is sort of just in the new business, we'd ask that Mary give her update, which she previously had in the comment. Keep it somewhat brief. And if the
yeah, okay.
I don't know how to turn my video on, but if you could just listen to me, that's okay too. I have been part of a group.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Mary.
Okay. So I've been part of a group called East River Crew for quite a few years. And we have little by little built up a beautiful boat launch and rowing program along with estuary education at East 96th Street. And it's been all volunteer and it's been ongoing since 2006 to the present. And until last year when the entire Esplanade around East 96th Street, North and South, just began falling down. And tons of really awful sinkholes and things like that. So we were stopped. We were stopped from operation and spent the whole next year, that was the beginning of 2019, the whole next year working with parks to try to, and they were very helpful, Steve Simon and Wesley Hamilton and some of their people also. But we were not able to find, as soon as we found a place that looked like it would work, the engineers would come in a boat or whatever, and they would say, no, you can't do anything there. We're going to close that too. So long story short, East 20th Street, all the things that you have going on there are similar to all the things that were going on at East 96th Street, with the exception that we didn't even have separate lanes for walkers and bikers and things like that. But we were able to bring 1 or 2 boats out from a shipping container every week and sign people up and take a ride someplace on the river, depending on who was on there and what the tides were. It could be different. You know, we were involved in special events with Metropolitan Waterfront, rode quite often to Governor's Island, et cetera, et cetera. So we would now like to replicate what we have at East 20th Street and have done a little bit of community organizing, have found some interest, and we're in the process now of just letting as many people as possible to know about this and support this so that we can move our davit and our ladder and actually the big ask, a shipping container. We have a shipping container boathouse that holds 2 boats, which Parks has informed us since it withstood Hurricane Sandy that the bottom would probably come out if we moved it. So we can find sources for our shipping container, but then of course it would have to go under the FDR also. And we've worked on that before. I know it's not an easy ask, but the result would be so nice. We only have rowing 1 day a week, 1 weekday from like 4 p.m. till dusk, and some weekend rows for coxswain training and more experienced people. And it's just been a wonderful thing for all these years, and now we have to move. So hoping that we can find a way to squeeze in right near the intersection of 90th Street there. It does not seem to be the area that's under construction now, and it already seems to be fabulously well maintained and sturdy
We've had kayakers come across the river to check out from the seaside, and there's no big outfalls of sewage or anything visible. And so it's a great idea. It's nothing that can happen overnight, but we are just looking for support to go ahead and start thinking about this. And I don't know if John made it or not to the call, but he happens to live very close by to that.
Hi, Mary, I'm here.
Oh, great. So maybe you can talk for a minute about.
Yeah, so what, I'm John Marsh. I'm the former president of the Stuyvesant Town Peter Cooper Village Tenants Association. I retired in 2015 from the association. And since that time, I joined the East River crew up on East 96th Street. And yes, there's been a loss of that site due to a crumbling seawall. What we're really looking for is about a 3x3 foot square foot anchoring point on the seawall where we can mount our davit. And then what we do is we take our boats out of the shipping container, roll it over on a dolly and lower it in the water. And we give kids and the community, the public, free access to the water. We have strict safety requirements. We give them life vests. There's a walkabout, there's a talk through. It's a great way to give access to the water for the communities of Community Board 3, Community Board 6, Waterside, Stuytown, Peter Cooper, the Lower East Side. I'm just a rower, but I'm a big advocate of it. I think it's a great program. I am a trained mariner, and I can tell you that the number one thing that's important to them is safety. And Mary, I don't think you've ever lost anybody, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
So if you have any questions, feel free.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mary and John. I guess my sort of initial question is that, so are these only crew boats, or is this a variety of boats like kayaks and other?
Yeah, well, to call them crew, even though we're East River Crew, it's an acronym for Community Recreation Education on Water. But our boats are not the same as the sliding shells that you see in the Olympics, but they are boats that were designed in the 19th century in New York Harbor and have a great history. They were the water taxis of the harbor that would speed out to oncoming ships and, in fact, take the newspapers down from across the ocean and race back. And they work very well in these waters. We know the tides, the currents. We plan each row depending on being able to get back. We read nav charts because we don't have a lot of draft in these boats. They are very stable and very maneuverable, but they can travel on the edges of the water and all of them. We use marine radios. If we see oncoming traffic that looks a little confused, we can ask them, which way they wanted to pass us and do that pretty seamlessly. And it's just been a lot of fun for people.
Mary, why don't you describe it's what is it, 24 feet? It's a wooden boat, very sturdy with 4 oar positions that alternate, and it can carry about 8 people, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, 8 at the most. A minimum of 5, 4 rowers, 1 oar each, a coxswain in the back a coxswain aft that steers the boat and is responsible for what happens on the water, and then 1 or 2 passengers They can take cargo. We can take.
Okay. All right. Thanks. So I'm going to call on Letty here in a second, but Janet posted in the chat, and I think this is sort of on the minds of a lot of other people, is that back in the day, Councilman Grodnick had proposed a kayak sort of launching point in Sty Cove, but for a variety of reasons, this didn't move forward, and the common reasons cited were seaplanes and ferry traffic and mixed sewer flows and whatnot. Have you guys considered other spots along the East River at all in Manhattan, outside of just Sty Cove and your previous home?
Well, this area is really good. Area Brooklyn Bridge Beach was mentioned, but like Sty Cove at 23rd Street, if it's a little piece of sand, our boat is going to take that away. So the environmentalists don't want us to land there. So those kinds of areas are out. We also, unlike kayaks, we do not use floating docks. We use the davits and the ladders, and that gives us a little bit more of a broad area to choose from. But it does need to have a place to store boat. And the shipping container thing has been perfect, but many places don't have room for a shipping container.
Okay. Thank you. Letty?
The question that was previously asked and discussed about Dan Gorodnick is what I was going to say, so I'm done. Thank you.
Great minds, Letty.
Okay. But we are very different from kayaks, and we have a different, well, for one thing, our insurance is such, and the sport of our kind of rowing is such that everyone gets a life jacket at all times, and we do not have to, our waiver from US Rowing for our insurance does not require swimming. So in other words, we do not have to ask young people or people who are native New Yorkers if they could swim. So we don't make liars out of people, but our boats are stable. People don't fall out of the boats. People don't have to swim. We don't need chase boats to,
I would add that kayaks are much closer to the water and much less stable, whereas a Whitehall gig like the one that Mary describes are extremely sturdy, and you never really get in the water. You're never in the water. You're in the boat at all times, or you're on the ladder, or you're on the seawall.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. So I believe Diana Elkin has posted a series of logistical sort of hurdles regarding Sty Cove. If you could put your contact information in the chat, and Mary and John can reach out to you, I think that'd be greatly appreciated. You guys can start from there. Letty?
Thank you.
Just one other question. What are we being asked to do at this point in time?
This is just presented as new business.
Okay, thank you.
It's just a brief sort of presentation update.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I have sent a like a 2-page proposal to
Yes, and it was, thank you, and we forwarded to the committee as well. So
Adam, can I just chime in real quick on that?
Yeah, please.
Hi, Mary. Thanks for your presentation and your showing us your passion for rowing. We appreciate that. So CB6 did share with us the crew's request to temporarily relocate to the Sty Cove Esplanade at East 20th. EDC has been made aware of this request, as they are the manager of this location, so they get to decide how the property is used, who gets to use it. So it wouldn't be DDC, it would be EDC. So I looped them in. They weren't able to attend tonight's meeting, but assured us that they would follow up with a response to the East River crew. And as you know, Parks is also aware of this because they've been trying to work with you to relocate the crew since 2019. So you should be receiving word from EDC, and they'll keep us posted as well on the decision.
And
Okay.
Cody Osterman, our assistant district manager, emailed Will Fisher from EDC with your presentation as well. So you should be replying shortly.
Good thing I wasn't putting my things in earlier. I don't know how to stay away from the return button. What else do you need? Oh yeah, eastrivercrew.org has some pictures.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much, guys, for presenting. I think it was very illuminating. Again, I think the agencies will respond accordingly, and we'll follow up. We'll follow up if need be. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and move the agenda. Okay. And so since this is new business, is there any other new business to bring to the floor? Okay. Seeing none, is there any old business? Okay. All right. Very quiet. Sandy.
Sorry, Adam, is this where we talk about the potential meeting with CB5?
You're right. Yes, I had those both grouped together in my chair's report and
okay, sorry.
So can we actually address this in new business? So if the update for CB5.
Okay, and I guess Cody, were you going to give a brief description of when we might be able to meet with CD5? This is regarding a ULIRP application for an MTA building. It's actually, most of it's within CB5, but there are a few elements that are in CB6.
Yes, we're still waiting for the project to certify, and then we'll have a better sense of the timeline. As Sandy just said, right, this building is at 343 Madison Avenue. It's in Community District 5. However, the associated transit improvements include transit improvements in both Community Districts 5 and 6, and that's why it's being referred, the ULIRP is being referred to both community boards for comment. We are talking with CB5 now about their interest in holding a joint meeting. Jesus noted that it's been done before back in person, and it should be, logistically much easier to do so now over Zoom. So once we have a sense of the timeline, once the project certifies and it's sent out, we will know, if they're interested in a joint meeting or if they just want to have separate hearings, one for CB6 and one for CB5, and when those might be.
And Cody and Kyle, Jesus, and I did see a presentation that they made on the building, and they're going from an FAR of 15 to an FAR of 30. They're looking for multiple zoning request revisions. One of the things they are doing, though, is widening the sidewalk to 20 feet on Madison. And they clarified that they are doing transit improvement items from the East Side Midtown zoning list, but they're not actually contributing monies to that pot that goes towards improvements in our district. Apparently this block was excluded at the time of the zoning. They're in the design phase, and questions that were asked of them, we asked if we couldn't get an entry from 45th Street into the transit connection. We wanted to clarify the palette of materials. Apparently it's going to be the same across all of the east side access entries. And we asked about bird-friendly glass, which is actually now the law. But it seems very important that we do discuss this with CB5 because it is a very large building and they're asking for quite a few changes. In terms of transit improvements, it's really mostly for the flushing lines, and they're going to provide wider stairs and better platform access. And yes, that was basically what we discussed at the presentation. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sandy. Cody, do you guys know when a potential joint hearing is going to be, or is that still, is there like a general time frame, like February, March?
We're not sure, again, because CB5, to my knowledge, has not yet confirmed that is the route that they're interested in going. I know Jesus and their new district manager were discussing the kind of logistics there. In terms of the timeline, there is a chance that it certifies, I believe, at the end of February. And in the briefing that Sandy just referenced, we also requested, and the MTA and their consultancy firm is going to look into this at potentially having them come and present before it certifies, just to give kind of like an overview, give everyone the opportunity to kind of familiarize themselves with the project, and then do a second presentation, public hearing per the ULURP. Once it does certify, that would kind of give us 2 cracks at it to kind of hear, digest, take some time in between, and really come up with a good series of questions or comments or concerns.
Okay.
We also asked for a copy of the presentation. I'm not sure how much they were willing to release at this time. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll be on the lookout and we'll be prepared for 1 or 2 informative presentations. Okay. Thank you both for attending that meeting, and Kyle as well, to sort of get a handle on that. So really do appreciate it. Okay, so I'll kind of go in, and I'm sorry that I had CB5 on my mind for other reasons. So I'm gonna go ahead and dive into the chair's report. And so wish you all a happy and healthy new year. You know, we're a year into this. I know no one can believe it. I can't either, and I'm not going to expand upon that anymore. But you know, so we're continuing to press on and sort of the important issues that we are dealing with. And so some of the things I wanted you guys to be aware of which you may have seen in the emails that Cody and the office have sent out. There are some upcoming events. I hope that you can register and attend. One of those, well, actually, it's not an event, but tangentially to Park Avenue, you still have time to input your sort of vision, if you will, and your comments to DOT based on the improvements to Park Avenue as part of the greater Midtown East rezoning. It's very important, and hopefully this is something that will, you know, affect us as well, you know, even though it's not quite in our district. The other one is that there is a upcoming lecture, or I guess a panel hosted by Wagner at NYU about the funding of parks. You know, this is open space is one of the most important issues, you know, in our district that's dealt with a lot in this committee and others. And so I think it'd be pretty informative and it'd be good, you know, to say the least. And I believe that was sent out in a prior email. The other one with CB5. Around the holiday break or so, I think in late December, there was news about proposed legislation for a comprehensive plan that was proposed by the speakers, the city council speaker, and a host of electeds who have signed on as co-sponsors. One of those being Councilmember Rivera. I've been in touch with her office, and her office forwarded me some materials that are just basically in the press release as a whole, but I'm happy to have Cody forward those onto the group, or excuse me, to the committee. It's good that there's a chance that we will deal with this as a board in some capacity if this continues to move forward, either in this committee or jointly with the strategic planning committee headed up by Kavitha. But with all of that said, CB5 is hosting, or excuse me, they're having a presentation by a member of the speaker's office about the proposed comprehensive plan, and that's going to be this Wednesday. Again, I can have Cody email the details on that. I was just made aware of that literally before the meeting, so I think that would be pretty informative. Jem, I see you have your hand raised. Oh, well, we'll figure it out. Sorry. And so with that, so in addition to attending these extracurricular sort of events, you know, one of the things that we've been talking a lot about exec is sort of the cross collaboration amongst committees. I know there are a lot of people here who are on other committees, and a lot of these sort of topics sort of blend over. And so as we move forward into the year, one of the things that we're going to be talking about is sort of how can we sort of address this business sort of in the most efficient way as possible. And so that'll mean working closely with the other committees and divvying up the work accordingly. And so some of the things I want us to sort of consider, and hopefully we can bring up maybe next meeting, depending on whether or not that coincides with a lengthy ULURP, hopefully not, are some of the long-term goals that this committee has and sort of the things that we sort of envision ourselves having, a work plan, if you will, for the year. And so part of my vision is sort of to focus on sort of the activation of the waterfront, continued updates from ESCR, and then the broader sort of land use planning coordination with the strategic planning committee and others. You know, we haven't been normal for a year, and sort of how do we sort of react to the changes? And are there studies that we can sponsor, or are there resources that we could access to help us better plan for the new normal that hopefully we enter very, very soon? Another thing, two more things I want you sort of to consider before we log off. One is always to look at the district needs. It's always that time of year, as the members of the budget committee would say. So again, that sort of piggybacks off of to the sort of the resources that we could leverage, both in terms of actual volunteer help or studies that we could actually commission, or other sorts of items that we would like to sort of see spent as a board. And the other portion too is that, you know, Cody has informed us, and so has Jesus, is that, you know, there have been a lot of bad things about this year, is an understatement. But however, the reach of this committee and the reach of the board sort of has never been greater through this platform. You know, this evening is sort of a testament to that, is that we got to hear a myriad of voices that were able to sort of to ask distinct questions. And I think that there was a real healthy sort of dialogue that I think was both beneficial, both for the community and the departments as a whole. And I'm hoping the departments will act on the feedback that was delivered this evening. But sort of as we merge in, as we begin to a new normal as well, sort of how do we, what do future land use meetings look like? What do other community board meetings look like? So this is something that we're going to start to engage a little bit more in exec. And so sort of if you have any ideas in terms of how to sort of continue this great outreach and this great participation, but in terms of what a meeting looks like in June, you know, maybe that's optimistically speaking, you know, please let us know, and we'll take it into consideration. Okay, Jim, I think your audio works now. No, oh no, I can't hear you. It's not working. Oh, yeah. Can anybody, Cody, can anybody hear him? No? Yeah. I'm sorry, Jim. Feel free to shoot us an email. I'm sorry. So with that, does anyone have, is there anything else to say before we close? All right, I see Wells. I'm sorry, Wells, I see your hand.
Hi, Adam, I just wanted to respond briefly to what you mentioned about the strategic planning committee. I'm working with Beeth on that committee, and I just want to echo what you said. I mean, I think one of the things that we're thinking about there, and you know, we're several of us here on both of those committees, is thinking about how that group can really work as a kind of in-house, you know, planning and strategy resource for all the different committees. You know, like thinking about not just the one-year plan for land use, but a multi-year plan, you know, like really thinking about the long-term kind of visioning work that we could possibly do as a board and as a committee. So we need to break that down into, to real tasks and to think about what that really looks like, what that work looks like. But I think it could be a real benefit to this committee, having this newly formed kind of strategic planning resource available to, to work on both short, medium, and long-term research, projects, whatever the kind of tasks at hand are. So I think we're eager to find this kind of cross-committee engagement happening going forward.
Excellent. Well said. Kavitha, I see your hand raised as well.
I echoing everything well said and you said, and I'm really excited that you're bringing it up because we definitely have some plans, and I don't think June is that outside of the realm of possibilities. It might be May or June or sometime months from now that we can really convene on this. And I think I've been told I can hijack at least one executive committee for this. I don't know if Kyle's on here, but I'm just going to say that for the record. But yeah. So putting that out there. So anyone from land use who wants to work on this stuff, please, let's work together on it.
Excellent. And also too, I'd be remiss, you guys have a pretty cool meeting coming up. I think this pretty action-packed agenda. Do you want to make a plug for that for those who aren't on the committee?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a series of meetings. I think they've been really, really interesting. I mean, I know I've learned a lot in the past few, from when Claude spoke about kind of the history of affordable housing in the district, to having the collective for community, culture, and environment last time. Now we are having Open New York come to our next meeting, and I worked with Rich and the housing committee bit on that, but they're going to talk about really, we're trying to still focus in on the exact topic, but it really is about effective means of community engagement around affordable housing and other issues. So that should be a good one coming up. And looking at the future meetings with health and other groups, parks, hopefully. So we'll be in touch about those. But land use, obviously, always tied in closely with you guys.
Excellent. Thank you, Wells, and thank you, Kavitha. Really appreciate it. Okay. So everyone, please mark your calendars accordingly. All right. With that said, do I have a motion to adjourn? I see Sandy. All right. Okay. All right. Cody, do we have to do another roll call, or are we good to go?
No, you're good to go.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for a very productive meeting this evening. Thank you for all the feedback for the agencies, and we'll see you all very, very soon. Thanks. Enjoy your evening. Take care. Bye.